How's it going, guys? I hope everyone's doing well. Today I'm just going to do a little analysis video because it was a request from one of our viewers. So big ups to you, mate, for requesting a analysis on an old favourite of mine, which is a Mefjus suicide bassline. And just before we get into the analysis video, check out these awesome caps. You can grab one off me, just message me on Instagram. I'm not even making any money on them. It's just cost price. And also, if you book in a production lesson with me, you can also get one of these for free. And they're pretty nice, actually. If you don't wear caps, it's okay. We can still be friends. Anyway, let's get into the analysis video. Oh, and also, if you're new to the channel, then welcome. And hit all the vegetable buttons down below. Starfruit. Is that a vegetable? Probably not. Okay. Let's listen to Mefjus Suicide Bassline together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it throughout the track when I think of good ideas and tips to give you for your own kind of production and sound design, and also compositional tips as well. It's not like there's that many sort of different sounds. It's just that the ones that are being used are, you know, so big already that it's just this kind of change in pitch when it goes up, you know, to create the tension. That's kind of all it needed, really. And then we have these few little call and response sort of kicks and sort of fluttery effects. But that main kind of synth sort of pad almost, I think it might sort of be layered as well with like another bass underneath or something. But it's like it's very big and wide, and it's got a lot of pitch, like vibrato and movement in it. So although it's just one note, it already feels huge, and it has a lot of detail within that, you know, one sound already, so you can get away with it. Like especially there, we have a really nice like pitching down of the sound at the same time as the kind of tremolo effect is happening, and also slowing down. And you hear like we have this kind of kick build up almost, but the kick is actually, it's almost half like kick and half like bass shot, you know? So it's not, I mean, just a normal kick on its own would be a little bit kind of not enough, you know? This has got like a long kind of bass tail on it as well. So yeah, it's just way more interesting. And this woman is really attractive. And you can hear the build up is, there's a little bit of a sort of call and response between the kick, and then you have this kind of fluttery kind of synth. It's like so it's like boom, boom, and that's a good tip for call and response in general. Is like if you have one thing that's like simple, and then the response is like more complex, like rhythmically. So that kind of just you can apply that tip throughout any part of your composition. You know, if you have like a really simple like bass, one note held down as the call, and then the response, things get like faster and faster, and then it switches between the two kind of variations in energy within the call and response. You know. Now we have this kind of like really nice tom fill coming in, and just before this drop, you know, there's a vocal that comes in. And I'm going to show you where it comes from in case you don't know. Suicide bassline. Right. so I actually, someone's already made a YouTube video about it, but I already like noticed it once when I was watching an episode of How I Met Your Mother, and I saw this episode and I was like, wait a minute, I've heard that in a song.
You're embarrassing yourselves. You're embarrassing Miss Aldrin, and worst of all, you're embarrassing me. That's it. Suicide bassline.
So in this video, they've already like affected the vocal. I'm 99% sure that's where it's from, but that doesn't matter because it's cool anyway. So let's go back to the drop and analyze the kind of impact.
Suicide bassline.
So although we've got the vocal, there's also a little riser that comes up as well. But in general, you know, it's a gap before the impact of the drop. So that's important to give you that big effect on the kick when the drop actually comes in. A little gap before you have the kick.
Suicide, baseline.
And it's actually quite simple. Like, it's the right amount of sounds and the right sound design, and they're all nice and big. But it's not actually like there's so much going on, although it sounds like there is. You know, you've got your kick, your snare, your hats, and then you've got just this beautiful call and response between the mid basses with like a really nice sub underneath it, and then you've got these just amazing ride hits on top that kind of really just go well with the mid bass. And that the kick, you know, that those rides hit on the kick, and again that kick is like it's sort of almost a bit longer than you would normally use. It's got this kind of like real like subby bass like underneath it. It's almost like the kick and bass are like one instrument, almost like a kick bass, and then the modulation on that kind of mid bass is just so nice. And I mean, Martin Mefjus is obviously an absolute G, and I love him. But how can I sort of give you some tips on that kind of mid bass design? I mean, not so much about just sort of copying him, but in general, what makes it interesting, you know? So it's the movement on the sound that makes it interesting, you know. It's the automation, it's the modulation, it's the no 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 no, and everything is moving according with that. And you know exactly what has been sort of automated to give that movement is obviously very specific to this sound, just like with any sound. And it's a combination of having lots of little things move together on the same kind of LFO pattern, for example. And it's the combination of a few key parameters that creates this final result. And it's not like why would you even want to go and try and recreate this exact bass? Like, you need to be putting in the work with your sound design and trying to create these combinations of parameters that then give rise to a really interesting texture within the bass patch, you know. And your one will be very different to this, but it won't necessarily be any worse. It'll be different, and it'll be good, and it'll be yours. And what you want to do is you want to be focusing a lot like on the mid-range, like between the sort of 100 and 500 hertz, you know, that main powerful mid-range area, and using that as a starting point to modulate, to get the expression in the mid-range of the sound, because everything else around it, you know, the sub, that's just there, it's volume on or volume off pretty much. That mid-range is where the interesting movement and all the effects kind of happen. And then the high end, you know, it's just the sparkle and the grittiness, you know. But it's the mid-range that you need to be focusing on when you're choosing what parameters to sort of move around. So I mean, I'm not going to go and recreate a vital patch to try and emulate this, but what I will say is just put in the time with it, and you know, don't try to specifically recreate this one. But I'm kind of rambling now. But it's also the movement and the groove on it, and you can hear when he kind of switches up and the LFO pattern sort of changes, and you might have to just make a few different versions of your bass where the LFO movement is different. And this is one that's, I think, just best to do kind of by ear, like, or not really on the grid specifically, because it's sort of a bit lazy, the way that it moves. It's sort of like a bit off the pattern, off the drum beat a little bit. And if you keep the drums like really nice and tight to your grid, then you can be more like loosey-goosey with your mid-bass LFO, like be a bit more not random, but random, but a bit sort of just lazy with the following the groove. and then that's what's going to create the funk. And this change here, you know, we've already got all the main elements in there. And the drop is perfect, and it's just a small amount of perfectly crafted sounds that compositionally work well together, and they sit in their own spaces in the spectrum. You don't need to be like EQing the hell out of everything to get it to fit together. You're using the right sound for each frequency band already, so you can bypass a lot of the EQing. It's just subtle tweaks for the mastering and stuff. And here, like when we switch up into the second 16, there's a big change in energy, but the elements are still pretty much the same. You know, these extra shuffles come in to create more like kind of speed and tension in a way, but then at the same time the mid bass kind of cuts like the notes, so it's making use of less is more with the pattern, so you know it becomes a bit choppier. And just those two changes, you know, the extra energy in the drums and the more choppiness of the bass, that just and the little kind of riser in the background or little pad thing, which is like also kind of adding to it, it just changes the energy like a lot and really progresses the track really nicely without actually having, you know, done something like so absurd or different that it doesn't follow the textures in the sound that in the track that are already there. And what she's doing there with her hands, I love that. And that's how you've got to think about your sounds, you know? You don't want your sounds to be like no. It's like there's a lot of little movements in all of the sound design, and this comes from even just a bit of detuning on the pitch in your patch, you know, not having everything at 0, but having this natural movement and detuning in the sound that gives it a little sort of vibrato that's almost unnoticeable. It's not a huge effect, but you're putting life into the sounds, you know. So even a riser, you know, that comes up, it could be like moving a little bit as it comes up, just like her sort of hands are. So it's a good way to sort of think about it when you're doing your sound design as well, to get these little things moving in each sound. By the way, if you guys want one-on-one coaching, you can check out the links down below in the description, and I can help you out specifically on one of your tracks, and we can just really go in and just absolutely make it as good as we can together. And yeah, also you can check out my Discord down below as well. You'll also get a discount on my lessons if you're in my Patreon Discord community, so that's good, isn't it? Just really nice, big, huge soundscape sounds with a lot of decay and a lot of pitch movement on them to keep them interesting. But it's very simple but effective. You know, it's not like in this one. There's so many different sounds like in the soundscape on the breakdown. You know, it's kind of just big ones that just have been designed very intricately. The changing in the pitch, you know, as it kind of goes up, you know, that's really giving rise to the tension in this song as well. Like as we kind of build up to the second drop. Also, never trust a man who wears sunglasses and a cap indoors. And again, you know, these little changes, you know, before where the mid bass was just like no, now it's no. It's just that little gap where you've kind of left out one of the you just leave out one of the like, I don't want to say movements, but one of the, not really stabs, but one of one of the bumps. I don't know what the word for it. Let me know in the comments down below what word I'm looking for. One of the, you know, alterations where the LFO comes up on the mid bass, that's just not there anymore, and so it creates that kind of stop gap and shifts up the groove a little bit, so it's a bit different. And that's just a really easy way to make a nice change for like a second drop. And because everything is already so perfectly working together and matching, because of the sound design and the sample selection is already on point from the beginning, you can get away with these just small changes, and they have a much bigger impact and difference because it's already sounding so good as it is, you know, so you don't need to do too much once you get that main combination of sounds right. And obviously, you know, we've got these little risers in the background that you can hear, but that's nothing, you know, so difficult to do, I don't think, for anyone. You know, the pitching up, you know, just creating tension throughout the section. And these little like fills that we kind of heard where it goes a lot quicker, you know, for me, I would just have taken my main mid bass, put it down onto another channel, and then just create a new version with a faster LFO and a couple of extra effects, like a bit of extra phasing or a bit of changing of the filter position, just to make it stand out a little bit. But originally it's, I assume, from the same source, like sound or patch, you know? And I'm just trying to break this down just because one of my subscribers asked me to do this video. I mean, I'd probably have chosen to do a newer track, but yeah, I like to sort of, if people have very specific requests, then I will sometimes do them if I'm feeling up for it. So yeah, but I mean, like I'm of the idea that you should just put in the time and effort and trial and error and create your own sounds anyway, you know? But this is just my way of trying to break something down so that you can perhaps use that as like inspiration for your own like ideas. The kick is kind of obviously gone here, and it's just been replaced by this bass stab in its place. And yeah, nice way to sort of bring down the energy for the outro. Nice little outro kind of reversed effect you could probably do with Portal or something easily like that. Yeah, so that was my analysis of Mefjus Suicide Bassline. Absolutely loved this track when it came out back in the day. Got a big love for Mefjus and all of his work. I think he's definitely one of my inspirations. And yeah, I hope that helped some of you out with a little bit of your knowledge on music production, especially in drum and bass. And yeah, like I said, check out the links down below to my presets. You can book me for one-on-one coaching as well. And yeah, come and join Discord. And yeah, that's about it for me today. Have a lovely day. Peace.